Let's talk about minimalism and how you can be a better hater. I don't want anyone on here to think that I'm encouraging you not to be a hater, because hating, of course, is one of the great joys of life and of art viewing. What I want is to help you be a better hater, because if you're doing it the right way, it really improves your critical thinking skills. So I want to demonstrate being an effective hater by talking about some artwork that I hate. Minimalism comes around during the 60s. Think of it as a response to abstract expressionism. So the minimalists really wanted to take pretension out of art, take meaning out of art. They wanted to make an object that is just the materials that it is. And you go into a gallery and you see something that looks like, oh, that's just some cement blocks on the ground arranged in a grid. That was the intention. It's just the materials that it is. It takes up space. It is an object. It refers to the material of the object. There is not expression going on here. There is not a message. The message is the materials. When you think minimalism, think simple shapes, hard edges, hard lines. A lot of times you can think of construction materials or industrial materials. And generally, it's not trying to use the material in a different way from how you would regularly see it. So you're emphasizing the qualities of that material. If you're using cement, you want it to look really cementy. If you're using wood, it's to look like wood. You're not changing the form that much or that dramatically. This is supposed to challenge what art can be, what a sculpture can be. It's supposed to show art as something that can be enjoyed by more than just the elite classes. The other thing that I believe minimalism removed from the work, in addition to meaning, was any sense of joy or fun or pleasure in looking. Now, if the stated goal of many minimalist artists is to remove meaning and pretension from art, I want you to imagine walking into a show of Carl Andre's work with no context. You walk into the Museum of Contemporary Art and you see cement blocks arranged in a grid on the floor. With no context, with no art degree, no formal art education, do you feel like this is accessible artwork to you? This kind of art does exactly the things that it claims not to do. They talk about wanting to make art that isn't just for the elite. You have made a precious object, sir, that now is rarefied. You used these basic industrial materials that are really cheap, but because you used them and put them in these galleries in this way, they are now extremely expensive, priceless works of art. If you want to talk about money washing, these works are perfect candidates. They are inoffensive. You could put them at a bank, in an office building. You can put them anywhere, and they are just racking up those dollar signs for you. When I say something is art, it means that it's an aesthetic proposition that we can engage with. That does not include a value judgment of if it is good or not. That does not include a value judgment of if it was good or not. That does not include a value judgment about if it is good or not. If we talk about what we don't like about a work, we learn a lot. So I want to think through this work in the stakes presented to me by the artist, by the context of the work. And when I think that through, I consistently think minimalism fails on every metric. Look at minimalist architecture. Minimalist architects claimed that because these building materials were very cheap, the forms are very easy to make, very simple, these would be sort of like a progressive dream. You would be able to make so many high quality, affordable buildings for people to live in. But does this look affordable to you? The reason it doesn't is because rich people took this aesthetic and they made these multi-million-dollar homes with them. So even though in theory you would be able to make a lot of these for a lot of people very cheaply, that's not what happened. It became a rarefied elite status symbol. But then on the other end, because the materials are cheap and the forms are easy to make, it also got used for things like building prisons. So you have on one hand the extremely wealthy in minimalist architecture, and then on the other hand, the most extreme other side where this is what our prisons look like. I think about how ridiculous it is to say that minimalism is accessible. I think of art that has been made accessible. So I think of things like street artists, pop artists, someone like Keith Haring kind of living at that intersection. This, I would say, is an accessible art. People can enjoy it. It's not rarefied in the same way. You know, it's on public buildings. You know, it's not something that has to be decoded. Now, it's not that there is no labor involved in minimalism. There is a craftsmanship to a lot of this work. There's also the fact that this takes a lot of intellectual labor. There's a lot written about these works. Many of these artists are also theorists, so they are writing. So you have to take the art into account with all of that. Now, again, I think it fails on every level. But by engaging with that, by thinking about why it fails to me, I learn things. I learn about, if I think this has failed so completely, so abjectly at being accessible, that tells me something about accessibility. I think about how it bothers me to remove meaning from artwork, well, that shows me something what I value about meaning. And then I can interrogate, why do I think it is important for an artwork to have meaning? I'm not really bothered by the fact that this lacks expression. I don't think expression is that important, that it needs to be in every form of art. But if you are a person who thinks that, think about, why is that so important to you? What value do you think expression has that it needs to be in the work? All these things are things that can be engaged with, and things that you can hate about. So again, no one's forcing you to engage, no one's forcing you to comment on my videos. But if you're gonna be a hater, I just want to encourage you to dig a little deeper so we can have a discussion about why you hate something. What bothers you about it? Other than, beyond it's annoying. Why is it annoying? It's ugly. What makes it ugly? It has no value. Well, what are the values that you think an artwork should have that this lacks? There's always something that you can get out of your dislike that's rich information, vital information for the viewing process. I hope this helps. Go forth and be a hater.